There's something that successful businesses do that struggling businesses completely ignore. The answer is that they run experiments. Constantly. They're constantly running experiments. Harvard Business School actually did a study on this, and Professor Stefan Tomke found that companies like Amazon, Google, Booking.com literally ran thousands of experiments a year. They don't guess. They test everything. And because of that, they grow faster. Now, I'm not Amazon. I know you're not Amazon. We don't have thousands of engineers that can constantly run different tests. But yesterday in my business, we began an experiment. And I want to tell you about the experiment. I want to tell you why we're doing this, because I think it might help you see something in your own business. I'm Scott Todd, and I've built multiple seven-figure businesses since leaving my corporate Fortune 300 VP job. And this channel is dedicated to helping you build a company that you love. Now, one of the companies that I have is a SaaS product. It's a software as a service product. And one of the challenges of running any company, including a software as a service, is this thing called churn. Now, you may not be familiar with churn, and let me break that down for you. Churn is essentially where your customers turn over. And it can apply to literally every single business, even though not every single business measures their churn rate. But think about this for a minute. The more customers that you keep every single month, basically, the better and faster the company is going to grow. So every month, I get a report, and the report is basically a data point. Here's your churn rate. Okay, so we calculate the churn rate every single month for this business, and we look at it and we try to make improvements from it. But basically, one of the things that the report doesn't offer us is insight into the why, or the potential why this is happening. And look, before you go back and say to me, hey, hold on a minute, I don't have a software as a service. Like churn we don't even measure churn in my business. I want you to hear me out. You see, churn doesn't appear for, certain businesses. As I mentioned, it appears for every single business. I'm talking about even businesses that you might even think about. I was talking to a B2C company, a training company, and ultimately they had one product that they sold to their consumers. So their consumers would leave, buy from them and leave and never come back. That is churn. You might say, well, how's that churn? They fulfilled a product. Because tomorrow you have to go out and get new customers. Anytime you have to go out and get new customers, you have some sort of churn in there, which most people don't talk about. One of my companies is a land investing company. And when people stop paying, guess what? That is churn. If they default on the loan, that is churn. I have to go replace them again. And so all of this really stacks up in almost every single business that you want to think about. So I want you to stay tuned. Okay, so as we started digging deeper into the numbers, the one thing that was lacking was, hey, what's the driver of this? Why are people leaving? And the team that operates that business, they had lots of ideas. Oh, well, it's because of this. It's because these are small businesses and they turn over. And in fact, I kid you not, someone on my team literally quoted Alex Hormozi and saying, oh, this business is all about small businesses. And even Alex Hormozi says small businesses are tough because they go out of business. I'm like, you can't do that. No, that doesn't work. See, what we need to make sure that we're doing is that we understand the true driver of this. Why is this happening? And is there some data point that would help us slow that down? Is there something that's missing? So about a week ago, I gave AI access to the data. I said, hey, here's the database. Here's the exact same stuff that the team looks at. I want you to go through and I want you to analyze every single potential data point. And it did. Okay. Like it's just cranking away at analyzing this data. And then one of the things that we came back with and noticed is we started looking at data points. And one of the things that jumped off the page here is that customers with reviews cancel less. It's a very simple thing, right? Like a customer who has a review cancels less. In fact, the data points that if they have a review, just even one review on their account, their cancellation rate is 58% less. That is statistically significant. Okay, like it is a direct correlation. So, okay, that's interesting. So now it changes the question. If reviews are important, and then that leads to engagement, and that leads to stickiness, that also leads to lower churn rate, how do we help people get reviews? You see, all of a sudden the question changed within the team's mindset. This whole idea of the data point changed the way that they were approaching the problem, because they were approaching a problem as almost like writing it off, like there's nothing we can do about it. But when we noticed that there's this one data point that if we could help them do this, then we would retain more of our customers. Now all of a sudden we have something we can rally around. So the experiment that we started yesterday is that we decided to turn on reviews for a package. Yeah, we had one package that did not allow reviews to be collected. And we're like, hold on a minute. This also has the highest churn rate. Okay. The team always looked at that and said, well, if they want to be able to collect reviews, then they should move to a higher tiered plan. But see, in a way, we were setting them up for failure. Okay, in a way, we were setting ourselves up for failure. So what we did was we turned on this ability for them to collect reviews. And now the team is driving to say, hey, not only are we turning this on, but we're also going to go back and begin to help them and push them to go get this review, because it helps us, but it also helps them because it adds to their credibility. Now, we're measuring this over the next 30, 60, and 90 days. Like, we're going to measure this on a monthly basis. And I'm not just telling you this because I want you to see what I'm doing. I'm going to bring you along. I'm going to show you what the numbers are. We're going to give this 30 days. 30 days from now, I'm going to report back and tell you about this experiment. And the hypothesis here is that the churn rate is going to drop. That's what we're basically saying. We're going to do an all-out push to move on this one metric, and we're either going to be right or we're going to be wrong. No worries. I'm going to bring you along. And if I'm wrong, if the team is wrong, if we're wrong, if I'm wrong, no problem, we're wrong. But we tried something. And you see, this is where the visibility trap begins to work in our favor. Now, if you aren't familiar with it, I talk about the visibility trap in prior episodes. It's one of the things that, maybe you don't have access to the data or you don't have the complete data picture. In this case, we had a data point, but we didn't really have the complete data picture. We had to dig deeper to kind of get the insight into the number. You see, the data was always there. It was always there, but we had to go deeper to dig in and look at it. This is where we're like, hey, we have to leverage the visibility trap here. We're in a trap. So my question to you now is, what data do you have that potentially you don't have the whole picture, right? Like what data do you have that you're not acting on? And the bigger challenge that I would challenge you with is this. Is there something in your business that if your customers do this one thing, they are more likely to succeed? And remember, if your customers succeed, you succeed. And if your customers succeed and you succeed, that means that your business is succeeding. So is there something that you could help your customers do early on to get them a quick win that helps you move the needle? And we've seen this play out in other businesses. For example, Slack, the communications tool, Slack determined that the more people that the more of your colleagues that you could get onto Slack in the early days, the more likely it was to stick and the more likely that you were to become a paid customer of Slack. So that's why the push is always like, hey, get your team with you. Come on, bring your team with you. Bring your team with you. Because that's a data point that they measured and said, hey, if you do this, you're statistically more likely to succeed with our product. So going back to land investing, because a large part of my audience is land investors, real estate investors, is there something you can do early on that would help your customer succeed and stay with you? You have to figure that out for your business, but you should be looking at every business problem with this same lens. What can I do early on to help my customer succeed? Because remember, when your customer succeeds, you succeed. So what are you going to do? What experiment could you run beginning today or this week? I'll give you a week. What can you run? And it can be simple. It can be something about maybe test the color on a button on your website. If you change the color of this button, what happens? Measure the before, measure the after, give it some time, and see if your hypothesis is right. Don't run a bunch of different tests on that button at the same time. Or whatever you're doing, run a test, give it some time, report back. Did your hypothesis work or did it not? And I will leave you with this one last thing. Remember that a hypothesis has to be true or false. So in my example, it either has to reduce churn, true or false. Does it reduce churn, true or false? And if it's a true, it stays. If it's a false, we revert back. And see, you can do that now in your business without a team of engineers. Just change one thing, one metric, test it. And for me, I promise I'm going to come back to you in the next 30 days and report how our churn test is going. And in the meantime, I will see you in our next episode.